Martha Stewart started following you, and I was like, I didn't know she was gonna follow me. And then it was Martha Stewart tagged you.
But she
and I
still
was like,
follows
what?
you. Ballot Couture. Do they know you as Katora or do they know you as Terracotta Hottie?
You can say my name. That's fine. Look at
Her address is 821. Hello, everyone.
we're so
Welcome to No Balabusta by Terracotta Hottie,
Aw.
aka Katora. This feels particularly funny because we've been
Yes.
talking for a good hour. We're good talkers, and I've known you for,
years now.
I think, 2014. So
Say yeah.
So
That's
like
forever.
8 years. But you know they say
Yes.
that if you've known someone for at least 7 years that you'll be friends forever.
I like it because I don't want to get rid of you. To stay together forever.
I think social media will make it very easiest for us to stay connected. Because
True.
A, we're friends on social media, and
Yes.
B, we have all of the same interests.
Yes. very
Plants, coffee, books,
true.
fashion, fierceness.
So I'm Katora from Terracotta Hotties. I am a plant enthusiast. I don't like to call myself a plant influencer because no.
Or expert.
Yeah. Expert adjacent because I wouldn't call myself an expert yet.
Okay.
Let's see. I have an obsession with rehabbing plants, like plants that are dying or have bad infestations and things of that nature. Yeah, and I just love all things plants, books, and coffee, like you said. I have my Instagram where I showcase all of my plants there as well. And so, yeah, find
And
me
I've
there.
seen them. They're
Yes.
here.
Some of the gang is here.
Some of the
yes.
gang. We're sitting in front of some of the gang. So
Yes.
I asked you earlier, do you know the names of all these plants? And not like pet names, like you know
Yeah.
their actual name. Do you want to?
Yes. Sure.
What is this?
Fiddly fig, that's its cousin, the Ficus Audrey. And then a bird of paradise. And then I don't know if you guys can see the one over there, but that's a monstera as well.
This one, I'll make sure you guys see it. It's got the most.
It's
It feels like
huge.
you're in Hawaii or something. It's got like a very tropical
Yes, yes.
feeling to them.
Mhm.
And so like I said, I've known you since 2014. We used to work together.
Yes.
So I know you mostly from the context of like, I know what gym you go to.
Yeah.
I know what you used to do for work. I
Yes.
know who we do and don't like at our old office.
Yeah.
We talked a lot about that earlier. We'll leave that off of this.
That's our secret.
That'll be for the Patreon.
You are so yes,
But anyways,
yes.
I didn't know you had an interest in plants.
Mhm.
So where did this come from? How did it start?
Sure. So when I think it's back in 2018, me and my now fiance got an apartment together.
Yes.
And I
Because
was
you
like,
were fiancé.
yes. And so when we were looking for our home or our apartment, I was like, I'm gonna deck this thing out with plants. And the first one I wanted was a fiddly fig. So I did all my research, made sure like we had the right amount of light, all this stuff, because you know how they show you which apartment you're going to first. You know, you
Yeah.
kind of know what you're working with. So when we
And
got
fiddle fig trees are known for needing
a lot
of light.
yeah, at least
I have
6
killed
hours.
2 of them.
You've had one? You should have told me.
This was before I knew you were a plant enthusiast.
Oh, okay,
And
that's good.
I have learned I have a lot of windows in my place, but I don't have lighting.
Gotcha.
I have light, I don't have sun.
Because it depends on the direction of your home too. That's very true.
Yes.
Because like here, this is all south facing, so they get a lot of
When
light.
you bought this, it wasn't this big.
No. It was in this pot. Like it's been in the same pot for a couple years, but it was definitely shorter, and it looked like a cute small bush. So
Yes,
now
that's
it's
the one
like,
I killed.
Yeah. Somebody no. But yeah, they need at least 6 hours of light, bright and direct light, and then let's see what else. Well, that's really it. And like a south facing window is best. So when we got our apartment, they showed us what apartment we would be living in. You guys moving in this date. So when we went to move in, they had us in a different apartment because I guess
Something had happened.
Yeah. And so then we were in like a dungeon with, we only had 2 windows, which is our patio window.
Was it the same price that you had agreed to?
Yeah. It which sucks. But
Welcome
yeah,
to
we
Atlanta real estate and apartments.
Exactly. So
They're
we
not.
moved
That's
in.
not cool.
I know, and we were pissed about it, but
Were you in one of those
home.
apartments where like you walk in and it seems like there's one floor, but then there's another staircase
Yep,
that goes down?
and
I
that's
know
where
exactly what
yep,
you're
that's
talking
where
about.
we were at. And then so I was like, okay, this is ugly, but we're still gonna make it a home. I'm still gonna get my plant, I'm still gonna get my fiddle leaf. So I did, and I got my infamous fiddle Harold, which a lot of people know about.
Yes.
And
everyone who follows you on Instagram
knows
about
Harold. Yes. So he had 4 big leaves. And that whole time living there, he didn't grow one leaf. So we were there
But
for
he
about
didn't
a year.
lose leaves.
No, he didn't. He didn't lose. And
Mine
he didn't
did
grow.
that thing. I think they call it shock, where like you move it from the plant store and you take it home and it immediately sheds
drops. Yep.
almost all of its leaves.
Yep.
And I didn't know how to recover from that.
Oh, and it's not dead. Like, it's still alive. It's just those leaves.
We've been talking about the fact that there's something called dormancy in plants. And yeah, I need to learn a little bit more about that.
Yes, that's true in the fall. So, like, and then it even got to the point where, like, my fiance was watering it every day. He would take it out on the patio. He was like, oh, yeah, I watered Harold today. And I'm like, oh, okay, great.
Is he
And then
supposed
the
to water him
next
every
day,
day?
no.
Yeah.
And I was like, please stop. Like, don't do that. But again, he wasn't losing leaves. He didn't turn yellow,
He's a trooper.
anything. Yeah, so we finally moved, like, after our lease was up. And I put him in our sunroom. And once he was in that sunroom, he started growing leaves like crazy. And I was like, that's it. That's what it was. I need more plants. Like, bring in all the plants.
Harold was your gateway to
all
the
the plants.
floral foliage world.
Yes.
And I've noticed, A, from your Instagram, and B, like being in your home,
Mm-hmm.
you are big on the greenery
Yes.
versus florals, like
Yes.
actual flowers. What's that
Yes.
about?
Well, because as beautiful as flowers are, they just die so fast. In
Yeah.
my care, like I love white roses. I love, I think it's carnations. Like
I love carnations too.
Yeah.
You know, carnations get a bad rap, like for being filler flowers or being kind of ugly. Have you heard this? Well, I'm glad you've never heard it because I think one of the prettier. I love flowers.
Mhm.
Like
Oh, yes.
I'm a big like arranger.
bouquets,
I like a bouquet. I want to
Yes.
move more into like the living floral world. I don't have sun.
True.
I think like one of my like, you know how like when we need to talk about Martha Stewart, but like you know you have this vision of yourself being like a Martha Stewart homemaker type.
Yes.
In that world for me, not only do I have like, you know, beautiful home and sunroom, but I also have raised flower beds where I can do like flower cuttings so that I can build seasonal arrangements.
Yeah. Well, do you have a patio, like an outdoor patio or
Yeah,
anything?
we're not gonna Anyways,
It's not you.
this is why it's a fantasy. This is like my future fantasy of having a yard where I have raised flower beds where I can do cuttings and do beautiful arrangements.
Yes,
And
because the ones you do are beautiful. Beautiful.
well,
Yes.
thank you. Those are Trader Joe, Costco, Publix / I do have a membership to a like where real florists go to do like wedding flowers and
yeah.
stuff.
Oh,
I don't go there
cool.
very often
Mhm.
because if you buy, they have overages. So like a florist
Okay.
may place an order for like 80 tulips and they take 70, so they'll put the other 10 in a fridge.
Oh.
And you can shop from that fridge. But they
I never knew that.
you can but they price the stems a little above wholesale, so it's still less than like a Costco would be.
Mm-hmm.
But they add up pretty quickly.
That's cool.
Like a peony, like one peony can be like $10 or $12. Like
Now,
it's very
that's
expensive.
Beautiful flower. Oh my god.
Yes, and they're long lasting.
Really?
Yes,
Well, that's good to
like you
know.
if you pack them the right way, you change their water, and you know you just make sure that the water's never kind of like turning green and staying green. Like they'll last a while. But carnations, just bring it back.
Yeah.
I can go way off topic, but to bring it back, carnations. If you do like buy like 4 bundles of carnations
Yes.
and trim them short and put them in a shorter bowl,
Yeah.
I think they look like peonies. I think
That's
that
true.
they are like a nice compounded flower,
Mhm.
and certain ones have like a lot of variation in their coloring.
Oh.
You know, so like a pink carnation may not be all pink; it may have a little tinge of white in it or
Oh,
red.
yeah, that's true.
And
Mhm.
I just think in mass, they're really
They're
beautiful.
pretty. Yes,
really
they're
pretty.
very pretty. Yes.
I did the carnations at my wedding, actually.
Really?
Yeah, like not like my main
bouquet.
bouquet. My bridesmaids did
Pretty.
like a compacted carnation bouquet because I didn't want to spend a lot of money on
True.
their bouquet. Like, no offense, guys, but there were a lot of them, and they aren't worth an $80 bouquet.
True.
It's just too expensive.
True.
And then I made for my rehearsal dinner, we had it at my parents' house, and so I did these kind of big arrangements that I put on all the tables, and we brought them to the where I had the ceremony and kind of used them as accessories. But I did trays, and I did floral foam that you soak, and I stuffed them full of baby's breath, which is another filler flower that gets a bad rap.
Yes.
Stuffed it full of baby's breath, and then I just stuck random carnations and a handful of like white roses, and they were like huge. And I got everything from Costco. Cute. And I think all in, I got maybe a dozen of these, and I probably spent, I don't know, $200 or something.
That's not bad.
No.
At all.
No. I can do a video on Costco flowers because I was very nervous.
Yeah.
I didn't, they deliver them to your house. Like, you don't go and pick them up. So I was like, they might all come dead or ugly. I know I had a good experience.
That's cool. And that's a great price for flowers for a wedding, because florals for a wedding are expensive.
Yeah, I mean, we spent way more than that.
But that's
these were just like add-ons.
Yes.
I had one of those, I'm Jewish, so we had a hookah, and I wanted like the floral thing that goes.
Yes.
I'll post a picture.
That's
I
know. It's
I cried.
I'm
See,
sure.
flowers, plants, they're emotional.
Yes.
Like you wanted them to make your home feel homey, and for me, like, there was only one element of my wedding that I wanted, which was this floral arch.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you. I don't have high expectations for people.
Really?
Yes and no. I think people try their best, but I think it's unrealistic to think that I have a vision in my head and you're going to execute it exactly how I want it executed. Like, you can give pictures, but like there's realities. There's gravity.
Yes.
There's like what's available at the market. Like, there's all these things, and so I knew it would be close to what I wanted, but I didn't know whatever. But I saw it
in tears.
I didn't cry when I found my dress. I didn't cry. No, I mean, what's there to cry about? I looked great.
Exactly. Good point.
I would have cried if I looked bad.
That's a good point. Oh, that's
yes.
sweet.
So those flowers for me were like the waterworks. I was literally, crying, and I was like, I'm just so surprised. Like, no one ever does what I want them to do.
That's awesome. Yeah, and to piggyback off your point too, like, plants are therapy too. Like,
especially during COVID, I feel like people have been seeking out things that are like calming. Yes.
And that I can say is very true, because if I'm having like a rough day at work now, or just a rough day in general, I'll put everything down, stop, get up, and be like, okay, let's do something plant related. So I'll water my plants, clip off dead leaves, check for pests, anything. But it just brings you kind of back down to that zen space, to where I'm like, okay, good. Maybe now I can go do some work. Maybe. But yeah, they're definitely therapy, and it just keeps you kind of sane. Like, and the more the merrier, because I have a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, I can see that you are, living your truth.
Yeah. So, like, even if I'm having a really bad day, let's say it's payday, and I'm like, you know what, I deserve a plant. I'll go and buy plants. I found local plant shops, which when I lived in my previous location, there weren't many local plant shops. So Home Depot was my first go-to, then Lowe's, and I call it the Raggedy Rack. Lowe's has the Raggedy Racks, and you go in and you can find plants that just aren't as cute as the ones on the main rack are.
Right.
So they'll probably have like 2 or 3 crusty leaves, and they'll put them over there. But they'll be like 50 to 75% off.
Wow. And are these in their gardening center, or are they inside?
They're in, the gardening center. Well, not outside, the outside part, but the one right before you get outside.
Before the doors. Yeah.
Yep. So they always have a rack there. I don't know if it's every Lowe's or just a few, but I know a plant friend of mine, she sees the Raggedy Rack too, and she's like, hey, guess what I got? But I got a beautiful bird of paradise, not the one behind us, but another one that just had 2 leaves that may have like burned in the sun or something. And they put it on the Raggedy Rack, and I'm like, what? They put this one here, clip those leaves off, brand new plant. So I love doing that, shopping local. And then just last year, I got comfortable with shopping online, because I was terrified.
It's very intimidating, because I've looked at more ones for planting in my garden, and like, I mean, I know it's what zone I live in, right?
Yes.
But the names alone,
they're overwhelming.
and they can be expensive too.
That's
true. Like, do I need 1 bulb or do I need 87? I'm not sure.
Yes. Yep. So, oh gosh. And I'm a frugal plant shopper too. Like, I don't, It's just me. Like at first it was I don't buy plants over $25. Like
Okay.
at one point the fiddly figs, like these were $25. That was my most expensive plant.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm like, you deserve something a little bit more fancier. So I
What's
went up
the
to
most
40.
expensive plant you've bought?
That Hoya Chelsea. Well, you guys can't see it, sorry, but
Sorry.
it's right here on the counter. But it was like $39.
Okay,
But
so
that
you're not
was
going
on
into
cake.
like the 80, 90
No.
tier. Because I've seen plants, even at like a Lowe's, that are,
Mhm.
you know, maybe they've potted a handful of succulents together and
Yes.
added some random like arm. I don't know, like
Yeah,
the
why
design,
would
the,
you do that?
the designs are questionable.
It is because the watering is different. I've
Yes.
seen those with like a corn plant, but like succulents can go without water for weeks.
Yes,
but a
which is,
corn
I
plant
do really well
can.
with succulents.
Yeah, a lot of people love
And they do
succulents.
well without a lot of sun. Also.
That's true. That's true.
Like
yeah.
they're thriving and I'm not doing
Doing
much.
anything.
Yeah,
Mhm.
a friend of mine said, you know, I used to do like the ice cube thing when I had orchids.
Oh,
And I was like,
yes.
maybe I can do the ice cube thing with succulents. She was like, you know, do you have a spray bottle? And I was like, yeah. So
Yeah.
I just spritz mine.
Oh, really? And it works fine?
Yeah, I'll spritz the leaves, which
Mhm.
normally I know you don't want to like, get your leaves wet, so that was weird.
Can.
I'll spritz the leaves and then I'll kind of go into the soil.
Oh yeah, and spray the top layer.
And then I
That's
just
a good
forget
idea.
it. And they've, doubled in size and they don't have a lot of sun and they seem.
They happy. They have feelings too. Like it's so funny you say that because my grandma has a sunroom of all her plants, and when she goes to water them, or every morning when she goes to sit down and enjoy her coffee, she goes, "Good morning, girls." And I used to live with her, so every Saturday I would hear her say, "Good morning, girls." Like, who is she talking to? But then I realized she's talking to her
That's so.
plants.
I love my grandma's passed on, but I have certain phrases that bring me back to her too. I feel like
Yes.
it's nice that you have that.
She's kind of like the inspiration, a little start to it. Her and my grandfather with plants because he loved plants.
Okay.
Like, loved plants. And then I found out my mom, who's passed, she was obsessed with plants too. So I'm like, oh,
It runs in the family.
yeah. So it's fun. It's fun.
That's really nice. I read a book
Mm.
during quarantine called The French Bridal Shop, or I think it was called The French Bridal
Mhm.
Shop. And there's a character, an older woman who lives in like a mansion by herself, and she has a sunroom that's filled with
Yeah.
plants,
Mm.
and it has a similar. It just reminded me of that. And she
Mhm.
had, I don't know that she spoke to them, but she
Oh.
cared for them,
Yes.
and that was part of the book.
Yes,
Good book.
yes.
You can read it. My review's on Goodreads.
For the people who say like, "Oh, I have a black thumb" or whatever the saying is, I don't think anybody, like everybody, can take care of a plant.
It's because you're
Like,
very optimistic.
I
You're
am,
a
but if
very
you have
hopeful person.
windows, you should like, as long as you have like the basic care tips, like when to water, the right amount of
I think that's
sun.
tricky though, because a
Mhm.
lot of us, we go to a plant shop and we buy a plant, it has that little card stuck in it.
That's true, and
And
those
it-
can be deceiving
And
too.
it's very, you know, like with orchids in particular, we
Yes.
talked about how it's very hard to like rebloom an orchid and
Mhm.
they seem to stay dormant for a very long time. And if you were to
Mhm.
just follow the instructions on that little card, I think it would lead you to going, okay, I broke it, I need to throw it away and start
Very
over.
true. Very
Where,
true.
as I now I'm repeating stories, but as I told you, I have a grandmother who has an entire ledge of orchids,
Yes.
and she does almost nothing to them. And I don't know how long she's been collecting them, but she just kind of lets them do their thing.
Mhm.
You know, I think she occasionally waters them. I don't think
Yeah.
she's repotting them though. I don't think she's doing anything to really.
No, because orchids are weird because a lot of the little, like you said, the sticks in them say do the ice cube thing. That's a myth, you guys. Like
I
you
did
need
it.
to.
I broke it.
Because it needs, especially if it's in the bark, like it has
Mhm.
to soak for like 10 minutes so that bark can absorb that water.
Mhm.
So I would always say like water them or let them soak, especially if they're in the bark, because that's what I do. I let mine soak, but I'm no orchid expert because I just started them like a couple months ago.
Okay,
So,
well,
like,
I look forward to following at Terracotta Hotties and seeing you become one, because I think I think there's also the idea that you have to be an expert. Like, you don't need to be an expert. You can just start something new and
yeah, just
trial
see
and
how it
error.
goes.
And
Mhm.
they're not the most expensive plant to try
True.
to
Keep alive.
play with. I mean,
They're
fun
beautiful.
fact about orchids.
Mhm.
I listened to a podcast years ago, which is how I acquire all my knowledge.
Mhm.
We were talking earlier how we both went to college, and I don't remember anything from it
True.
all. Like, most of my knowledge comes from podcasts or historical fiction.
Yes. Yep.
Or just like
Books.
real life.
Yeah.
But orchids used to be incredibly expensive. They used to be a sign of like immense wealth, and they had to
Oh.
travel really far to get to you. And I don't remember all the details, and if I think of the podcast, I'll throw it in the notes somewhere.
Yeah.
But they have a very interesting history
Oh, that's cool.
of also just being very, very expensive. And what it brought me back to was, have you ever seen Pride and Prejudice, the one with Keira Knightley?
No. Do they have? I know I'm bad. Sorry. I'll go look.
It's like one of my comfort movies.
Yeah.
You know, like you have your comfort shows.
Yes.
Pride and Prejudice, the one with Keira Knightley, is one of the ones where, like, if I wake up on a Sunday on the wrong side of the bed,
You have to
it's
watch
like
it.
coffee and Pride and Prejudice and all. It resets me.
Okay.
But there's a scene in Pride and Prejudice where the father is holding an orchid, and now with all this vast knowledge I have from listening to a podcast, I know that was like probably historically pretty inaccurate, because they were well off. Like, they certainly were able to feed themselves and lived in a nice home, but they weren't wealthy landowners who had like immense amounts of money. There's really like very little chance that this man would have been able to afford an orchid, or that he would have even been gifted one. I don't think they ran in a particularly fashionable circle where they would have received kind of like $1 million gifts.
Yeah.
Like, it was kind of that special.
Interesting.
Yeah, so like when I think of orchids, now I think of like killing them, but or previously, now with my knowledge of them, I see them as like kind of the sign of how our society is just like advanced. Like, you can get your hands on anything.
That's true.
Like
that. Oh my gosh, that's so true, because even with certain plants, like, I'm trying to think of one that I have around here. But like, even in the plant community, there's certain plants, like for instance, a Monstera albo, that's the variegated plant. They're fancy.
This does feel very luxurious.
Yeah, but that's not one. That was a $12 find at Kroger that's just grown to be
amazing.
massive. And that's like how I shop, but like, you can find people who want the Monstera albos or constellations that have the variegations of like some that have white leaves and green leaves. And now you'll see people paying thousands of dollars for just not even that size plant, but just like a cutting of it. And then they'll have to propagate it and make it into a plant. But like, in the next coming years, I really think that like over time, they're not going to be as rare. Like, you're going to be able to buy them at Home Depot, and it's going to just be that cycle of, I can easily get it for $20, and somebody, you know, somewhere has paid $1,000 for
Can
it.
you see? I mean, I know what my bank account looks like, and I would never.
No.
But could you imagine, just even if you had like all the money in the world, do you think you would ever do that?
No. No. Because I'm fearful of, if I spend that money, because they grow different, they need different kind of growing conditions in a sense. I'd be pissed if I got one and it died. Like, and I just spent thousands of dollars.
I think there's people who have those really expensive fish tanks where they buy like really expensive fish and they do like perish and they have to replace them, and it becomes like an upkeep thing.
Yes, that's very true.
I like what your approach. It's more sustainable, obviously. Because if you did accidentally kill a $12 plant, most of us could recover from that.
Right. Yeah. And I wouldn't be upset about it. I can go
would.
back. Well, I would. But it's like, I have another $12
I'm so silly. Like, I could go to like Dunkin' Donuts or something and spend that, you know, buy my husband and I a latte and I don't know, donut or something. And it's like, oh, whatever.
True.
But I have a plant that's $12, or maybe a lip gloss, or like more of a tangible thing. And if I lose it or it breaks or whatever.
Like, I used to hang on to things, or hang on to a rehab very long, even though I knew in my heart of hearts, like, I really don't want this. And the first time I threw away a plant or regifted or rehomed one, that's when like the floodgates open. Like, okay, who else doesn't want to live? I'm so comfortable with throwing all you guys in the trash. Like, let's do it.
That's so funny, because in some ways, you know, you talked about taking care of your plants and being like in therapy. But I think any of us who've ever been in therapy, a lot of what therapy is learning how to let go of certain things that aren't good for us.
Very true.
So while something can be very good for you in a moment,
it's not. It's
you
a
know,
season
or a project, you know, whatever. But like, you know, sometimes it's good to like pass it on.
And that's so funny you say that, because I have
all the life lessons.
Yeah, in
learn.
plants. Because I have a photo, and it's a while back, but it was some of my prayer plant leaves were turning, and I was like, you just have to let go of things that are no longer serving you in a positive way. So if you don't like this rehab anymore, then throw it away. Like, if you can't keep it alive and it's taking more time to keep it alive, or the upkeep, rehome it first, of course.
How do you rehome a plant?
Just see if someone else likes it, wants it. So I had a calathea. I hate calatheas. everybody probably hates calatheas if you know what they are. The prettier the plant to me,
Describe
the
a
harder.
calathea for us who are in
Okay, so specifically, mine was a calathea medallion. So it was cute. It has beautiful foliage, like beautiful green leaves. The underside is dark purple.
Okay.
On top, it looks like somebody just paints it with marker. Like,
Are the leaves like
right.
this shape?
no, they're kind of like, oh, I don't know how to explain it. Like, it's kind of almost
Like
like a
this?
heart shape
Okay.
kind of deal, a little bit.
But you're gonna have multiple leaves on the plant.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It'll have multiple leaves, beautiful, just coloring like purple.
Is it like a hard
greens.
stem that has leaves off of it? Okay.
Mhm. And they love spider mites, so that's one pest. Like, good grief, it's just a lot. And then
Where do you think these pests come from? Like, do they come with the plant or do they find themselves?
Sometimes they do, depending on how well you inspect the plant before you bring it home from the store. Other than that, I don't know where they come from, and that's a very good question because it was sitting by itself and it just became infested with mites, and I was like, where did all these come
I
from?
know.
But when I got it, I didn't know those were pests. I thought it was a part of the plant. Like, I was like, oh wow, the leaves are sticky. Like, wow, this is different.
Oh.
And it was spider mites, and it was all over it. And I was like, wow, okay. So I cleaned it off, and sat her away from my other plants. Tried again. Then she
Social
started turning
distance.
brown. Yep, during quarantine.
Do you
yes,
think
she
plant
did.
people are better at quarantining than others because they understand the concept
Yep.
of social distance
Yes,
and like what it
plants.
means to infect others?
Yes, I hope so. Yes. But she would always have brownie leaves. She needs humidity. I sat her by the humidifier. Like, it was just something
It's a lot of
all
work.
the time. Yes. And I'm a lazy plant parent. So I was like, girl, this is too much. So I posted online like, hey, if anyone's in like the Atlanta area who wants this plant, please tell me, because before I throw it in the trash, I want to give them an opportunity to like live somewhere else. So one of my plant friends was like, oh my gosh, I'll take it. Let's meet at Trader Joe's and I'll take it off your hands. She took it home, repotted it, and was like, oh, look at it. So a couple of months later, I was like, oh, how's the plant doing? And she was like, I threw it in the trash. And I was like, I knew it. Like, it wasn't me. But sometimes, like, that's
another lesson. It's not always you. Sometimes it's
the
them.
plant. The
It's
plant
not
doesn't
you.
wanna
It's
live.
them.
Exactly. Yes. Because calatheas do not want to live. They don't want to be happy. The only place I've seen them thrive is at the botanical gardens. Like,
Oh my
that's
god!
the only
And
place.
here in Atlanta,
Yes.
we have the most
beautiful place.
fantastic botanical garden. I love the orchid room.
Oh my gosh, yes, they're so beautiful.
I had a former coworker who was a more mature single woman, and she had bought 2 memberships for her and then like a family member who comes into town regularly, but not all the time.
Yes.
And so she let me have that membership, and we would like go walk, you know, like we're
Wow,
like
oh my
speed walking around the
gosh,
botanical gardens.
yes.
So for almost a year, this was pre-pandemic, so I guess 2019.
Yeah.
We went almost every Saturday on a walk around the botanical gardens. and
Yes, now that is a day.
It's a lifestyle.
It's a dream too.
Yes,
Oh my
because they're
gosh.
changing it all the time too. It's seasonal. They do these amazing installations, like the Alice in Wonderland installation.
Yes. Oh, I'm so mad I missed that one because
Oh my
it was
gosh.
beautiful online.
It's just the skill, and you recognize that. You recognize that. Okay, this is expertise. You know, these are people who know what they're doing.
Yes.
And like when I
Yes.
buy something from Trader Joe's, like I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah. But there's always Google, and then there's me.
Yeah.
Like, I can always help too. But
Yeah.
a lot of times things can be misleading, but you just kind of have to try things out. Like, use it as an experiment, kind of, because that's what I did. Like, it
Right.
wasn't.
And it's
until-
obviously working. You've got a
lot.
pretty significant collection of plants and a really fascinating Instagram,
Yes.
which
Thank
makes me
you.
want to talk about Martha Stewart.
Let's do it.
Let's
Let's
talk
talk
about
about
because
it.
she is sort of like the queen, right? Like she
Yeah.
reigned before Food Network.
That's true.
Like, but she started being more than just recipes. Obviously, like I remember watching Martha Stewart and seeing her wrap presents.
Yeah, she did
Seeing
it all.
her take care. She had chows, I think. Her dog. She would like.
Yep.
I like learned how to brush a chow.
She did everything.
I have a pit bull now. Like I don't need to brush her. But she did everything plus recipes.
Yes.
And so she obviously was pretty infamous for also going to jail.
Yes.
And now she's like friends with Snoop Dogg, and they
Which is
have
so
a
cool.
CBD or maybe it's a weed company together.
Yeah.
So she's like kind of
She's just
everywhere.
everything.
And
I love her
she's
so
a
much.
boss bitch. bitch. Like, she's cool.
Yes.
Like, we like her.
Yeah, so what happened was, and it wasn't even like, it was a girl who reached out via her personal Instagram and was like, yeah, my producer wants to kind of talk to you
Via Martha
about...
Stewart's personal Instagram.
Yeah.
So to you, it looked
no,
like...
No, it was her, like the
oh,
girl.
okay. It wasn't,
And
it
I
didn't
was
look like Martha Stewart messaged you, because that would be pretty
no,
weird.
no, she didn't. So it was this random girl who messaged me and was like, hey, I just wanted to see if you wanted to do this Martha Stewart thing. Our producer wanted to talk to you. And I was like, are you spam? Like, what do you mean?
Well, I was going to say, too, this speaks to the fact that you look at your messages.
Yes.
Because I know you respond to me, but I thought maybe that's because I'm special.
She was like, and I was like, okay. And I was kind of just seeing what would come of it and see if it was a scam or not. So she was like, okay, great. I'll get you in touch with the producer guy. So he reached out. And I was like, okay. And he reached out via email.
Which
so
it feels a little more legit.
Kinda, except he wasn't using like so-and-so at marthastewart.com email. So I was like, okay.
What did he have? Hotmail?
I think so, or Gmail. Then he reached out and I was like, well, he doesn't even really have like a real email, but let me see how far this can go. Like, okay, cool, let's talk about it. So then like, he's like, well, I'll send you like the recording equipment and you record. And I was like, okay. So he did, and then when he responds to another email, there's the Martha Stewart email, and I was like, well, why were you using this before?
He's probably like on his phone being lazy.
Yeah.
We're all lazy sometimes. But
yes.
that...
Or forgot to switch back.
Yeah,
because
it does have that drop down where you can switch it. But that's...
Yes.
All right, well, we forgave him for... He wasn't a date, right? He was just a producer.
Yeah.
We forgave him for his hiccup.
Yes.
And he sends you recording equipment. Have you used this stuff before? Do you know what it is?
I know what it is, but like, okay, so they had like a tripod and a ring light, which is simple because I did photography too.
Yes.
But they had the mic.
She took pictures of me and my dog.
And Lily, yes.
Yes. And they were on my dating, like my Hinge at some point.
Really? That's hilarious. That was a fun shoot.
That was very fun. Yeah, so I know, I forgot about that for some reason. Yes, you know stuff around equipment. I would have no idea.
Well, the one thing I didn't know was the mic. Like, I didn't know, like, so I was like, yeah, I have my own camera. Like, I don't need a mic and all that stuff. So I recorded the first video, and he was like, no, Victoria, you need a mic. And I was like, okay. So he was like, I'll ship you one. Don't worry about it. So
did you get to keep it or did you send it back?
No, I had to send it back. And I was like, well, long story short, I realized, like, recording myself, like, I don't like doing it. Like, with the production equipment, like, our setup today is, like, my steez. She's very professional, but it's not complicated at all. So me, I was just like, oh,
work smarter, not harder.
Yes, no ring light. Then I had to set up my background, and then I had to make sure, like, my head was in the camera in the right shot. And
I am actually kind of worried that my head's not in the shot.
Oh no.
We did a thing where we're not looking at ourselves in the camera because I'm obsessed with myself, and I will just I'll end up looking. I'm like, well, and then you start judging. You're like, I mean, this isn't quite what I was hoping for. You know, you have like one idea of yourself.
Yeah.
Like, do you ever use TikTok?
No.
So don't do it. It's a waste of time. But I downloaded it. I realized I was using it too much, and I deleted it.
I heard it's addictive.
Recently re-downloaded it, and they have these filters that are kind of, they give me like Snapchat filter vibes.
Gotcha.
But these young, like, beautiful girls will put these filters on and they'll be like, wow, it's like so magical, like I look so different. And I'm like, well, let me give it a try. And I put the filter on, I'm like, nothing happened. Like, I just looked funny.
That's because you're already beautiful. Duh, Carol.
You're right. You can't improve perfection.
Yeah, so he sent me the mic, and then I'm recording it. My fiance's helping. We're like, oh, I can't get it.
When your fiance's helping you and you're having problems, does your anger live with the equipment, or does it come out between you two?
It comes out, and I had to take a step
That's
back.
normal.
Yes.
Because I always get scared when people are like, oh, we just laugh it off. I'm like,
no, you don't.
Like, really? Because I like sometimes don't like my husband. But.
No. Oh, I love him. But because we work very well together, but it's me. I know it's me for sure. Because like I get frustrated, and I'm like, oh my god, like I don't like filming myself. I don't want to like. So, and then I'm a picture girl. So video recording is outside of my realm of like expertise too.
What you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
So this was like not only kind of a new experience, you were like testing, because you were obviously going to talk about something you're very passionate about and you're kind of an expert in, or you are an expert in. So you would think this would be like
Easy peasy.
kind of easy peasy, although maybe a little intimidating because it's gonna get out to a much broader audience.
Yes.
Like the Martha Stewart audience is not
Huge.
the same as the audience you've cultivated.
Right.
It's a
That's
great
very true.
opportunity, but like
Yes, very different.
yeah,
Very
and as
different.
we've established, Martha Stewart has kind of got her hands in all the pots.
Everything.
So
Mhm.
it's not just plant people.
True.
Which can be, maybe that helps because they're not going to be like, oh, that's not what I would do.
Right.
Or
That's
it can
true.
be like, I have no interest, who's this random girl.
That's very true. That's true. And it was just like I'm out of my comfort zone because even if you look at my Instagram, you don't see a lot of pictures of me. You don't see a lot
which
of
is a shame.
videos of me. I know, and I'm gonna get better. I promise myself.
What's it
I
called?
would.
Primal branding.
I know.
It needs to be your face.
Yes.
You have a nice face.
Thank you. So it's like video recording is just like out of my element, but I love challenges. So I was like, I'm gonna lean into it. I'm gonna do it. So I potted because it was about repotting a plant.
Right, I watched it.
But I had already repotted my plant, so I was like, well, what am I supposed to do now? Because he wanted
Because
me
you'd
to
already
redo
recorded it.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
So I had to go down to a local plant shop, get another plant, which was awesome because it really went along with what I was needing to do. Like the
Okay.
roots were coming out of the bottom, and it was like a perfect example. So I told the guy, like, okay, give me like a week. I need a breather. I'm gonna come back to it when I'm
Good
more
on
enough.
you for
Yeah.
like asking for more time.
Yeah, because I want to deliver something really well.
And they weren't
but-
pushing you on timeline.
Well, he
Yes.
was, but he was just like, Katora, make sure you have it by this date because this is when we want to.
I guess because you had already delivered something and you thought this was great, and he was like, "No, hold up, we need to change it around."
Yes.
So that was still, you don't always hear good things about like Hollywood about being
No,
flexible.
That's true. That's true.
I think they were just like all of them were on strike recently. I think there was like a big
Yeah.
thing. I have a friend who's a director out there, and she's been. Obviously, I haven't been reading them in depth,
Yeah.
but she has been posting about it. But
Yes.
yeah, I don't think they've always been very accommodating.
That's
That's
true.
good that they were.
They were very nice.
Kudos
very,
to Martha
very
Stewart's
nice.
team for being
Yes.
accommodating.
Very nice. And I just took a woosah.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm
Did
gonna
they pay for
set
your
up-
plant?
Yes, they did. They were like, we'll pay for your
They
plant.
found
We
them
got
really
another one.
expensive.
I know. But then I'm like, then I have to take care of it once it's over with.
That's true.
But it was one of my dream plants, so it
What was
works. It was a Ficus Audrey, not this one. This one's a rehab, but it was like a bigger one, cute.
Where is it?
like upstairs.
Okay.
But she's doing her thing. But yeah. So I got the plant, re-recorded it, sent him the video, got the audio files down packed, and then they were like, okay, we're gonna post it on this day. Like, this is when it's gonna post. But the funny thing is they posted it early. But what happened was I was just on my phone at work, and
Of
it
course.
just popped. Martha Stewart started following you, and I was like, I didn't know she was gonna follow me. And then it was Martha Stewart tagged you.
Does she
and I
still
was like,
follow
what?
you?
Mhm.
That's cool.
Yeah, but it's not. It's like the Martha Stewart brand page.
So
but
what?
It's still the same
It's
to
Martha
me.
Stewart.
She sees it.
I mean, honestly, all of these personalities, they're human, right? But like the Martha Stewart brand is
It's
really
huge,
Martha
too.
Stewart.
Yeah, that's
Like,
very true.
Martha Stewart herself, like, not that we don't care about her. We really
We
want good
love
things for
Martha.
her. But like her brand is
It's huge.
kind of what matters.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So then I called my two friends on FaceTime, and first I sent them the video, and I called them on FaceTime, and we just literally sat on the phone screaming at.
Oh my gosh. It's kind of like when like music artists hear their song on the radio for the
Yes.
first time. It's very validating.
Yes.
I think, to have like
Yes.
Martha Stewart be like,
Yes, I'm gonna follow you. And
yeah,
I'm
and something that you said a few years ago, you wanted
just wanted
to
plant.
have a home.
Yeah.
You wanted a homey feel. You wanted to bring plants in,
Yes.
and you've managed to kind of build this into
A
a whole thing.
Yes, and it's still like,
And it's growing. You just hit 10,000 followers
I
on
know.
Instagram. I thought you already were at 10,000 followers.
No, and it just keeps going. And the funny thing is about that, I
Mhm.
posted a reel about Fiddle Leaf Figs like
Mhm.
a couple weeks ago, maybe, or last week. And it didn't do, like, it did numbers, but it
Yeah.
wasn't really moving like I thought it was. So I just out of sight, out of mind.
Right.
This past Thursday, for some reason, the numbers were just
They
going
just
and
got picked
people
back
were,
up.
yeah, and I was like, wow. So
I don't know how any of that works.
me either. It's wild because I didn't touch it. I didn't do anything. I just posted it, let it alone, posted a follow-up video, and then it just took off. And I guess it's like that algorithm thing. Like, it's just so strange. Like, I don't know.
Algorithms are
It's crazy.
silly.
Yeah. And it just picked up. And I mean, like, that Thursday night, I just kept getting followers. Like you know how you close
Wow.
the app and you come back to
Yeah.
it, and then it'll be like 50 followers and 100 likes, and I'm like, what is happening?
You're
Up
very...
until today, it's still going, and I'm like, what is
Wow.
going on?
Well,
I appreciate
you're
it.
awesome.
Thank you.
You're finally catching on.
I know. Like,
Yeah.
Like I didn't even think people cared about pinching and fiddly fig that much, but they.
I think they do.
They do.
I think they do because
Yeah,
I
they
think
do.
fiddle figs are also very like Instagrammable.
Yeah.
Like they had their moment. I think in Pinterest maybe a few years ago.
That's where I decided that I wanted one.
Yes,
Mhm.
they're pretty, and I've like contemplated buying a fake one since I can't keep them alive.
Those are more expensive.
These
than
fake
real
ones are like hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, they're
It's
expensive.
the fake plant market is
A scam.
It's a scam.
Like, what is that? Like, you can get a fake bird. Like, let's just say you get a fake one of these. You're looking at $200, and I paid $25 for that. Granted, you got to keep it alive.
right,
But
right.
still,
But they're
really.
capitalism.
Yep. At its finest, because I could never. Now that's a plant I'd never paid that much
No.
money for.
No, and I think that I've settled on to maintain like in my kitchen I have herbs which are very easy to keep alive.
Yes,
You know,
that's true.
and those you pinch.
You do?
Yeah,
Oh,
so like
yeah.
with basil plants, you always want to take your leaves off the top
Oh, I didn't
because
know that.
they'll grow flowers, and then those you don't want to eat those.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and if you pinch them off the top, I don't know what happens, but they get fatter.
Mhm.
I don't know how any of it works, but so I've
Yeah.
kind of settled on these herbs because
Mhm.
also these are like a couple dollars.
Yes,
If they-
very true.
When they run their course, we move on.
Yep.
But mine are doing well, and then
Mhm.
succulents.
Succulents are cute though.
They're
Like,
cute,
I
and just
feel
like a
they're cute.
handful of like happier, bigger plants. But
Mhm.
I mostly compensate with a floral arrangement. But you know, floral arrangements are something I had to grow into. They're expensive. Like
True.
if you're budgeting, if you're really like watching what you spend, spending $15 or $20 on flowers is a luxury that I didn't come into until maybe like a couple years ago.
Okay.
You know, it probably took me, I don't know, how long have I been working? So we worked together at my very first job out of
Oh,
college.
yes.
So maybe like 8 years out of college until I felt like, okay, I can, my grocery budget is this. Maybe I'll up my
Yes.
game so I can buy some plants or
Mhm,
something.
mhm.
'Cause, you know.
Yes, you deserve.
Yeah, and they're not like your plants. Like the joy they bring you is temporary unless you take pictures of them.
Yeah, that's true. But they're such beautiful things, and I feel like I don't know. Everybody just needs plants or flowers because
Mhm.
the beauty in them just makes I don't know. It just does something to your like
Yes.
mental health and
Same with
feelings.
candles.
Yes,
Yeah.
we have candles everywhere.
Yes.
Candles everywhere.
I love candles, and I think it's the kind of thing
Mhm.
too. Like, it's not a gender thing. Men, women, they can all like candles, but it is
Yeah.
kind of the woman's touch. Like, I don't think
Mhm.
my husband would ever
Go and buy a candle.
go and buy a candle or a plant
True.
or anything other than
Aw.
like Wendy's. His joy comes in form of cheeseburgers, but
Hey, that's a good joy too.
it is delicious. I don't know if it's heart healthy,
True.
but anyways,
yes.
very interesting stuff.
Yes.
I think
yes.
we're gonna hit pause.
Yes.
We are gonna switch gears because another reason we came together today was and you probably gathered this if you're a Terracotta Hottie follower, is Katora is a reader.
Yes, I love books.
She loves books. I love books. And throughout COVID, when I started reading more, and I was following your page, I saw that we were reading some of the same things.
Yeah.
Like we both read Such a Fun Age.
Yes.
Yes. And
that
there was
a
a
good
couple
one.
of Vanishing Half. Did you read
Yes.
that?
I'm so mad at that one.
Yeah.
We don't talk about that one.
I need to. I haven't read it in a minute. We'll have to refresh my memory on it. Well, I remember the plot line.
Yeah, I just know at the end I just got so mad.
It didn't work out for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so the book we're going to talk about
Yes.
is
happy stuff.
Children of Blood and Bone, and I have the same problem. Like the ending is not what I wanted it to be. So
Well, there's a part 2, that's why.
Yeah.
But the part
Okay.
2 makes you feel a little more zhuzhified.
So if you're a reader or you love Katora or you just want to hear me, we can go to the next video. We're going to talk about this book, our kind of reactions to it.
Yes.
It's
yes.
it's a fantasy book, but there's some depth to it. I think it
Deep
made
topic.
me certainly think. It was very topical,
Mhm.
especially with the Black Lives Matter movement.
mhm.
I found, even though it was published in 2018,
Yes.
there was, I read it kind of later, so for me it felt very relevant, and yeah, we're gonna talk about it.
Yes.
So I hope you enjoyed this video. You can subscribe, you can like, you can follow Terracotta Hotties, you can follow No Balabusta,
Yes.
and it's been so fun.